Hello, my name's Layton. I'm the current Flint, Michigan water supply manager. I live a relatively normal life. I have a healthy circle of friends, a well-adjusted cat named Smokey McBongwater, and a fulfilling existence filled with constant simulation. But it didn't used to be this way. It didn't used to be this way at all. Back in the good old days, the only way to make friends was to challenge them to a duel, the pet you had cursed like a sailor, and the most enervating point of your remarkable existence was when a dairy farmer gifted you a 1,400-pound wheel of cheese. Obviously, or perhaps not so obviously, I'm talking about the most interesting individual to ever live, Andrew Jackson. Jackson was the youngest of three, born in the South in 1767. His father had recently died by the time he was born, and just a dozen years later during the American Revolution, his mother and his two other siblings would also die supporting the war effort. Jackson also fought in the Revolution. At just 13 years of age, he rode with the rebels and ended up being captured and sent to a prison camp, making Jackson the only POW to become president. Now, out and about on his lonesome, Jackson tried his luck at many things, including being an elementary school teacher and gambling. Mainly gambling, at least until he decided to become a lawyer. You see, it wasn't terribly difficult to become a lawyer back in the day. On his way to present-day Tennessee, Jackson also narrowly escaped an Indian attack. So by the age of 20, Jackson had never met his father, lost his entire family to the British, and now had almost been attacked by the natives. Hopefully, these factors don't have a confounding influence on his presidential policies and overall temperamental well-being. Jackson wouldn't let his daddy issues stop him though, as before the age of 30, Jackson had been elected both a representative and a senator of the state he now lived in and helped create, Tennessee. He resigned from both positions prematurely and became a judge in the Tennessee Supreme Court. Getting bored of this though, he finally decided he wanted a military career. When Tennessee Governor John Sevier wouldn't grant him the rank of Major General of the state militia, Jackson challenged him to a duel, after which they became lifelong friends. Later, Jackson was in yet another duel with lawyer Charles Dickinson. Dickinson shot Jackson, missing his heart by only an inch. Jackson, in turn, killed Dickinson. Jackson would remain in chronic pain due to that bullet in his breastbone for the remainder of his life. In fact, the most credible number for the amount of duels Jackson fought was 103, making him the most dueled person in all of American history. Jackson also got into a literal gunfight with his military aide, Thomas Benton. Long story short, Jackson was shot twice, including a bullet wound in the shoulder. This time, the bullet wouldn't be a permanent addition to Jefferson's body, but simply lodged there for 19 years. Later, Benton and Jackson would become lifelong friends. However, I do ponder the potential ramifications having two lead bullets ooze lead into your bloodstream for 19 years might have on your mental state. During this time, the War of 1812 was currently being fought, and Jackson, who now led the Tennessee militia, was engaged in fighting with the Creek Indians, who allied themselves with the British. While battling the Indians, Jackson adopted 3 Indian orphans. Jackson likely had a soft spot for orphans due to him being an orphan himself, and in fact never had any biological children himself, possibly due to a smallpox infection, but possibly also due to his endearment to orphan children. While trying to illegally take Spain from Florida, Jackson learned about a potential attack on New Orleans and traveled there immediately. Remembering that he hated the British, as any sensible person still does today, Jackson assembled 5,000 troops and defended the city from a technologically superior enemy, turning the general into a folk hero. Being the rural rags-to-riches raving derelict he was, Jackson wasn't done there. He was just getting started, and with the help of his overly loyal supporters, Jackson became President of the United States in 1829 and immediately threw a drunken party for all his supporters. And as the gawking rabble ravaged the White House, the previous president John Quincy Adams narrowly escaped through the back door. Sometime after the celebration, a prominent dairy farmer gifted Jackson a 1,400-pound roll of cheese. Vice President Van Buren said the White House smelled of cheese for weeks. Quite impressive indeed, but not nearly as impressive as the 1.4 billion pounds of cheese stored in America's cheese caves. Jackson was also the first president someone attempted to assassinate. A man who was likely schizo attempted to shoot him at a funeral. Both guns he brought misfired, and Andrew Jackson then beat the shit out of him with his cane before being restrained by David Crockett. Jackson and his attempted assassin would then become lifelong friends. No, just kidding. He was found not guilty by reason of insanity and lived the rest of his life in an insane asylum. According to digital history, the chance of 2 functional guns misfiring was 125,000 to 1, but I'm not sure these odds apply to schizoid loonies. Jackson's most famous escapades during his 2 terms of presidency were the defeat of the National Bank, good, and the Trail of Tears, not good. but at least he decided to designate them the oasis known as Oklahoma. How thoughtful. The defeat of the Second National Bank, however, likely was a good thing. Jackson even went as far as saying that paper money was not real money. But what the hell do I know about banking and government? I'll let some other lowlife discuss that. However, I think we can all agree that Jackson getting his face on a $20 bill after detracting the efficacy of paper money is the best punishment one can give him after his regrettable Native American policies. Despite his tumultuous tenure as president, Jackson later in his final year became the only president in history to pay off the national debt. Jackson finally died in 1845 at the age of 78. His last words were, "We will all meet in heaven." Yeah, I don't think so, bud. It is also said that his parrot Polly swore so frequently that he was banished from his funeral. I wonder where he got that from. Alexander the Great battled successfully against the Persians in a campaign that lasted 10 years. Darius III, king of Persia, offered him joint rule of all of Persia, around half the known world at the time, as well as his daughter's hand in marriage. But it just wasn't enough. Alexander didn't just want to conquer Persia, he wanted to conquer the universe, and he rolled the dice once more. Andrew Jackson was born a peasant, became a war hero, a member of the House of Representatives, a senator, a governor, and it still wasn't enough. He just yearned unquakably for more. He was indomitable, and here you are, watching a 7-minute YouTube video. Instead of wasting your life learning about somebody that died so long ago, why don't you log off and go change the world in whatever way you can? Then maybe one day you too can touch the stars. Thanks for watching. Bye everybody.